Shalom and good evening, everybody. My name is Adiel. I'm here on behalf of the Universal Temple of Yahweh, and we're going to have a bit of a discussion this evening. It's going to be short, it's going to be casual. The setting, we're outside because this came to mind while I was outside with my son. So, as you may know, if you have been paying attention and all everything is going on, there is a lot going on everywhere in the world, both abroad and domestic. And people are trying to make sense of everything and trying to hold together what they're creating, this society, this country, the life that they've come to know. And for those of us who are children of the Creator Yahweh, who acknowledge the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not just in words but in deed, one thing we have to remember is that while people are going to and fro and in confusion and in desperation, that we should remain both steadfast and joyful at the signs of the times. And the thing that came to mind to me is that while we will sometimes focus on, and all of these things are important, we focus on the keeping of the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. We focus on, our walk out in the world as we are in the world, where it shouldn't be of it. And we focus on specific things within the commandments. One of the things we should always take time to do is to make sure that we're giving appropriate praise to our Creator, that we are spending some time focusing on the relationship between us and our Creator. And one of the things that I like to mention is that at the forefront of the relationship between us as individuals and the Creator Yahweh is faith and praise. Naturally, faith is something that is present when there is not knowledge of something. There is not a surety of something, right? It's the foundation that you stand upon when you can't see. And praise is what we're to do, and we're to do this unconditionally in the face of adversity, in the face of good times, anything, regardless. And when we look at those two things, we come to understand that continuing in unconditional praise and in faith, it allows us to understand things about our Creator Yahweh, understand things about His character. So we have to think about certain figures in the Bible, right? Our forefathers. We have to think about Abraham. We have to think about Job, right? One of the things that we learn from looking at their lives, as was recorded in the Old Testament, is that both men were men of substance. Now, they were not always in their lives men of substance, but that was their ending. And both men were tested in a way in that they were given much, but then they had things taken away from them. And this is where unconditional praise comes in. We have to understand that we are His children. And just like our earthly children, we don't always understand what the Creator Yahweh has in store for us, what His plans are, what the mechanisms for everything that He's doing in our lives, where the end to all of it is. So we just have to be, again, faithful and give praise unconditionally so that we remain within His plan. We see that the test in the case of Job was whether or not he would curse God Yahweh because he lost everything. And one of the things that, Job says, and I'm paraphrasing, is that Yahweh gives and Yahweh takes. Okay? And a key here is to understand that sometimes when he takes, he's taking to put you in a better place. All right? Not everything he takes from you is a consequence of, misgiving or sin. Many times he's taking something away from you to get you where he wants you to be, right? Perfection is his journey towards the Creator Yahweh. It's a journey we will never complete, but it's not about the destination, it's the journey itself, the drawing closer and closer to the Creator of all things. And so when things are taken away, these things will sometimes be distractions or things that draw us away from the path that he's designated for each and every one of us. And sometimes these things are but tests. They test to see if our praise for the Creator Yahweh is conditional. And if our praise for the Creator Yahweh is conditional, it's not praise that he wants, right? We have to be willing to give charity, right? Charity is synonymous with love. It's synonymous with a free will offering. And we have to be willing to give these to the Creator Yahweh because he is worthy of all praise and all offerings and all gifts. We have to think about the Creator as the architect of the universe, right? The master mathematician, the master chemist. And so understanding all the elements that go into a thing, he's able to properly move certain elements out, move certain elements in, rearrange said elements in order to get a desired outcome. And taking a cursory glance, the elements that are present don't make sense to us, but they make sense to him. So we have to always be willing to praise him and to trust. That's where the faith comes in, that he has our best interests in mind, the same way that our earthly children have to trust us. And it's beautiful how he created these things, and this will come up later. He created these things in our lives in the material world that we can use as examples to see how we should better be in the relationship with the Creator, our Father, Yahweh, right? Just the same as you improve relationships with your children, both through your behaviors, right? Because in this case, neither the earthly parent or the earthly child is perfect, so they both have to make improvements. But the difference between our relationship with the Creator is he is perfect. We are moving towards him. We're not moving towards each other. We're trying to move towards him, where he is. And it's only through his grace that he moves towards us at any time, when we are in our low places, when we are in our filth, when we're in our uncleanliness. So you see that Abraham also chose to follow the Creator Yahweh in perfection. And perfection in the Bible means completion. It wasn't enough that he followed Yahweh. He made sure that everyone in his household also followed the Creator Yahweh. That is the reason why his servant prayed to Yahweh when he was looking for a mate for Abraham's son Isaac, because he was also circumcised within his heart. So many of the world, people of the world, right, They have faith in man-made religions. They have faith in politics, which nowadays for many has supplanted the place of religion in people's lives in the past. But in either case, it's the same outcome. The outcome is that certain political parties, right, just like certain man-made religions, will dictate certain beliefs in your life. They will dictate that you verbalize support for moral principles, right? But all the while, you hate your neighbor. You don't want for your neighbor what you want for yourself. And on the flip side, they will preach acceptance and loving of all those around you. But then they won't tell you that you need to love and obey the Creator in His morality. So just like man-made religions, the political religions do the same thing to people. And people look to these things for salvation, and there's no salvation in them. They're not. There's no political solution for the people of the world. And time and time again, every 4 years, they discover this. We as children of the Creator Yahweh have to always remember while we watch and pray that we need to be praising our Creator for all the things He places in our lives, as well as all the things that He takes out. We need to be looking at our brothers and our sisters as growing and gravitating towards the Creator like we are. We have to be able to look at them and see the Creator in them, the parts of the Creator that are in them. You know, human beings are very unique in all of the creation that the Creator Yahweh had made in the beginning, in that things that are innate to, your animals, like you can kind of hear some of them behind me, the birds, they come out of the eggs and they have a language, right? The mockingbird has a language, for the mockingbird. The mother mockingbird understands the baby mockingbird. And when that baby mockingbird grows up, he understands the calls of the adult mockingbirds, right? You could take 2 German shepherds. You could raise one in the United States of America, right, from the same litter, and raise one in China. And both dogs will still be able to communicate with each other. It's not so with humans. It's not so with our sense of morality either. You see, He did this for a reason. And this is sort of the theme you will see in this discussion, is that He made certain things as evidence of His dominion and His majesty. He wanted us to understand that nothing truly, truly good about us comes from a place outside of Him, right? Morals, telling the truth, being generous, being charitable, being honorable. These are things that are unique to the human species. And they're things that don't originate with the human species. They originate from the Creator as aspects of Himself that He's given to us. So, one thing we have to make sure we do is that there's a basis to all the commandments, right? This is mentioned in the New Testament that the basis is the love, of course, and I'm paraphrasing here, the love of the Creator God, Yahweh, and love for your neighbor in the same way that He loves us. Now, let me break that down a little bit. None of us are perfect and complete, right? In the sense of, those of you who are out there listening, husbands, you know that your wives are different than you. Wives that are out there listening, you know that your husbands are a little different to you. But you know that when you come together, you form a more complete being, right? That's why we cleave to one another in marriage. We form a more complete being. But what we always have to remember is that the Creator, Yahweh, is already complete, is perfect, is more than perfect. And despite that, he's able to love each and every one of us because he can see the parts within himself in us. It's because the unique elements that come together that make each and every one of us is ordained by him in his creation for a particular purpose. And we have to look at each one of our brothers and sisters the exact same way. We have to look at them as pieces in his creation. Just because our brother and sister does not have the same virtues that we have doesn't mean that they're any less than us. I mean, if you could sit down and count all your virtues and then look at another person and objectively count theirs and say, wow, this person doesn't have all that many virtues. I have lots. You still don't need to look at yourself as being better than them because that unique combination of characteristics serves a particular purpose, just as yours serves a particular purpose. And he looks at us this way, and we should look at each other this way as well. It's important we understand that we cannot love the Creator, who we cannot see in his entirety, right? We cannot perceive, right? That's what I mean by see. We cannot perceive him in his entirety. We cannot say that we love him and we hate our brothers and sisters next to us, and we're unable to see the parts of him in them. It means that we're lying. We might like the idea or love the idea of the Creator, Yahweh, but we do not love him if we hate our neighbor. So I mentioned all of this came to mind while I was outside with my son. We were actually planting. We were talking about the squirrels and the acorns. And I described something to him about the squirrels. I said, the Creator Yahweh designed the squirrel to, squirrel away acorns while they were all present for the winter, right? We're currently in winter. And they'll bury acorns all over the place. And the squirrel doesn't remember where every single acorn he buried is. He remembers where most of them are, but he doesn't remember where all of them are. And you might look at that as a defect. The person who is carnal, who has an earthly mindset, right? And having a carnal, earthly mindset is satanic. It really is, because we know that the spirit in the eyes of the Creator Yahweh is predominant. That is what comes first, right? That's what is preeminent over the physical, the flesh. But if you are carnal, you will look at it as a defect in the squirrel. But those of us who sees with the eyes of God, Yahweh, we understand that that defect is intentional, and it's not really a defect at all. It's designed so that those squirrels wind up planting the next generation of oak trees. And I taught my son this, and I told him, I said, you have to make sure you always approach everything you see with people in this same way. He left examples of this sort of stuff all over nature. That's why nature is such a great place. The garden is such a great place to meditate on the word and upon the Creator Yahweh in all his ways. I told him you need to make sure that you approach people, your neighbor, with the same eyesight, with the same vision. And you will have to hope that they will look at you the same way. So, with that being said, family, I just want to let each and one of you know that spend your time meditating upon the greatness and the sovereignty of our Father, the Creator, the Most High, Yud-Heh-Wav Yahweh. Praise Him for all the things that occur in your life, things that you perceive to be good as well as those things you perceive to be bad. Remain faithful no matter what is going on. The people around you who do not have wholesome and true faith in the Creator Yahweh, they are scrambling to keep their ship afloat, to hold this system that they've created together. But we all know it's crumbling and it's falling apart fast, faster than it's ever been falling apart. And we know that we should rejoice because that means that the kingdom that will never fall is soon to come. We have to make sure, right? In that word faith that I talked about, there is the word pillar, right? And we know that pillars are the support beams of high standing structures, of bridges, right? And we know what bridges are used for. We have to make sure that within us, we create a spiritual environment, right? Within the tabernacles, within ourselves, the meeting place between the Creator Yahweh and us, we have to make sure we create a place of strong faith, of perfect and genuine praise, so that when tribulation is about us, that we do not falter, that we do not turn back like the wife of Lot, that we do not listen to the people in the face of the commandments that the Creator gave us like Saul did. We have to make sure that we remain faithful in all of our affliction, like our forefather Job, and that we're willing to give up whatever the Creator Yahweh asks of us, like our forefather Abraham. Keep those things in mind, family. And I want to thank everybody for being here with me. Have a blessed and wonderful evening. And let us give all praises and glory to our Father, the Creator, the Most High, Yud-Heh-Wav Yahweh. Shalom and Yahweh.